Hi all, how is everyone doing today? It's Friday at noon on the West Coast here in Berkeley, California. My name is Caroline Hart and I'm a reporter who covers inequality. Throughout the pandemic, I've turned my focus primarily to unemployment, and that is the topic of today's show, being unemployed during the holiday season. What does this time of year bring for people losing benefits on December 26th, and how are people who are only getting a small amount of money in benefits making ends meet? I have three excellent guests who will be on the show today to discuss. First, I will speak with Andrew Stettner, a senior fellow at the Century Foundation, a progressive think tank in Washington, D.C. He recently co-authored a great paper, which has been widely read and cited, that found 12 million workers in the country will lose their benefits on December 26th. He will discuss his research as well as the status of a potential stimulus to bolster unemployment and or provide direct cash to Americans. So I will get him on now. One sec. All right, great. Hi, Andrew. How are you doing?
Hey, good afternoon.
It's great to have you on here. I'm so happy you could make the time. My first question to you is, how many people, based on your research, are losing unemployment benefits at the end of the month and why?
So we estimate that 12 million Americans will lose their unemployment benefits in just 2 weeks from Saturday. Why? Because they are dependent on federal benefits that were temporary through the CARES Act. So these are individuals who lost their job because of COVID-19 and are no longer able to get the typical unemployment benefits. So that includes people who can never usually get unemployment benefits, like people in the gig economy, and it also includes people that have been out of work for too long to get state benefits. They have been picked up by these very effective programs, but they're set to expire immediately the day after Christmas.
Right. And my first question, other than that, thank you for giving a sense of the scope, is sort of about the idea of cash benefits. Because sometimes in reading comments on articles or on Twitter, and also in speaking with certain people, there's an aversion to giving people cash, even though there's evidence that it supports the economy. Why do you think that there is an aversion or cynical view of supplementing benefits for some people?
I just think in general, we have this idea that you should be able to take care of yourself, work and have a job and take care of yourself. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. But that could be not further from the truth, in this situation. If there's any time that people have lost, their way of life through no fault of their own, it's been this pandemic. And so I think that's what people are missing. Also, it's a tale of two worlds right now. Lots of people are doing just fine. Best if you're able to work from home or you're in a part of the economy that's able to keep on going. And so it's a really big disconnect from those who are doing okay and those who aren't doing well. Who tend to, especially in this, downturn, are women, people of color, those who don't have as much power in our society. They tend to, not being paid attention to.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about the difference between a stimulus check and extending and maybe bolstering unemployment benefits.
So I think, we need to do both. The stimulus check would probably, be in most proposals, something like $1,200. Potentially one time. Some people would have more than one stimulus check go out to individuals. This should go out to everyone, whether they're working or not working. It would certainly catch the disabled, the poor, who are unable, to make ends meet. And that helps people meet their bills, also stimulates the economy. The difference is, in unemployment, that is more of an idea of wage replacement. So you would be getting wage replacement at averages $318 per week, the basic benefit, and you'd get that in these proposals for 16 weeks. And on top of that, we might supplement that. So you'd be looking at something closer to $9,000 or $10,000
Mm-hmm.
over a 4-month period, versus just $1,200. And why is that? Why does that make sense? Well, because some people, if you don't have a job, you need more than just that one supplement.
Right. Oh, oops, sorry, we have a bit of a technical error here. Where, oops, one of the other guests was coming on. I'm sorry about this.
I can still hear just fine.
Okay, great. Sorry, I just want to make it so that we are talking to each other and the other person is not. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, this is okay. The other Andrew, if you wouldn't mind logging off and logging back on, because I can't exactly figure out how to situate us all here. If you could log off, I'm sorry, and then log back on when we're done. Thank you. Okay, we can continue. Okay, I'm sorry.
Fix it.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is okay. We can just continue here. Andrew Stetner, Andrew Zaki, I'll be speaking to after. Andrew, if you have a chance to log off now and log back on, that would be great. If you can't figure out how to do that, I understand. So, Okay. I wanted to just ask about the different types of unemployment that people can get, because you mentioned that there are a couple different types, including some that help gig workers. Would you be able to just walk me through briefly those different types?
Sure. There's basically two benefits that are at stake right now. The first is called PEUC. That's for people that are regular workers but just have been unemployed for a long time. Then what's been more revolutionary or unique is the second program, PUA. That is a benefit for gig workers, students, the self-employed freelancers who don't usually get unemployment benefits. They've been able to get 39 weeks of that benefit. It averages $240 a week across the country. And that is a new program that is set to expire on December 26th. We have, for a long time that was topped up by another $600 supplement that went away in July, but people are trying to start that up. And the kind of a bipartisan group has talked about doing $300 a week. So you could be looking at more like $550 a week in benefits if we could get this bill passed. Okay,
definitely. And what do you think about whether the bill will get passed? Do you have any thoughts or ideas about that?
It's hard to believe that senators who have a tremendous net worth in general will be able to go home to their families and celebrate the Christmas holiday without finishing the deal for 12 million Americans who don't have a job. But Congress does this kind of stuff all the time, and they probably are more dysfunctional than they've ever been before. I think it's by no means guaranteed, and all we can do is to keep raising the issue, and saying how important it is to our whole economy. Look, when you add all this up, more than 41 million Americans have been on unemployment at some point this year. That's 1 out of 4 people that are working, and we're not out of this. Unemployment claims in California, where I think you are, bumped up last week. They're shutting down more parts of the economy. It's not like people are going to be able to just somehow find a job, or if they're a freelancer, pick up some more gigs right after Christmas. It's a crazy idea. Right. And so it shouldn't be something that, allowed to stand, out there for people to cut people off in this manner. So it's really a disappointing thing. And, unfortunately, the situation is, too many people in Congress, don't care. It's not their focus. It's not their constituents. Right. We have to remind them that this is their job to take care of working Americans.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. My last question is about how benefits will not only help people immediately and give them money to pay rent, for medicine, for food, but also how will that money help the economy, and how will it prevent job loss down the line?
So, what do I mean by stimulus? When money is put out by the government, if people don't save it, if they spend it, that helps local businesses.
Right.
Landlords are, for example, very worried about their own mortgages, because the people can't pay their rent. Well, having unemployment, people are able to, or will be able to pay their rent. They're going to spend it at the local corner store. They're going to spend it at a restaurant. This is money that boosts the economy, and the economy has slowed. That recovery has slowed substantially, and so money from unemployment can help to boost that recovery in our economy.
Definitely, that makes total sense. Any final thoughts?
It's something that I just really appreciate how many people have made their voices heard and shared their story. That's what really gets people's attention. So I encourage everyone that cares about this, to let their members of Congress know that this is something that's really important to get done.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Andrew. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So we will get the other Andrew on now. This is Andrew Zaki. Hi, Andrew. Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier. That's my bad, not yours.
No. But can you see me?
I can see you.
My camera's working.
And I can hear you as well. So everything is great. Now, here we have Andrew. He is an event planner who started his own business in Los Angeles with his partner 5 years ago. Unfortunately, his business bottomed out due to COVID, and he is set to lose his unemployment benefits, only $150 a week at the end of the month. On top of that, his landlord is also moving to evict him. So he's going to talk to us today about his experience. Now, Andrew, I would love if you could just kind of give us an overview of what it's been like living on unemployment with that very small stipend.
It's hard. The thing is, I told you, like, I'm 1 in a million that we fell into poverty, literally, because, like, before you have your bills, you have your rent, you have everything, you're paying for, you're living your life normal, not extravaganza, but normal. Now I can't even pay my phone bill, and if I pay my phone bill this month, I have to call and say, sorry, I cannot pay my phone bill for the next month. I have to pay the electric bill, because it's either or. It's not like with $150 a week I can cover my expenses. Our bills was around like $1,100, $1,200 a month. I managed, like, during the last 3 months, I managed to bring it down, but it's around $700 a month in bills between phone, insurance, electricity, gas, all of these kind of stuff, and that doesn't include rent. That's like $700 just without the unit that we live in on its own is $1,700 a month. So I don't pay rent. Like, I'm at the point, since October, we didn't pay any rent at all. And that's when the landlord for eviction gave us the 15-day, saying we're not allowed to live in the unit and we are not allowed to have dogs in our unit. She knew about it for almost 4 years. She saw the dogs. She know we're living there and we're working from there too, She didn't have a problem. But then suddenly she just, like, flipped on us and, like, 15-day notice, and then she took it to court. Our court date was December 9th, and then our inner city nonprofit lawyer from LA, he moved it to January 20th, just to give us a breathing room. And plus on that, like, 26th of December is the deadline for our unemployment, the $150. So even after December 26th, I don't, like, the first 50, like, even like starting January, I have no money coming in, so it's not, it's falling off a cliff, literally. You're falling off a cliff.
Totally.
I'm trying to do a little bit here, drive here,
I wanted to
get a this, get a
definitely. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, what you have been doing to make ends meet, and also, what you will anticipate doing when you no longer are able to get benefits December 26th.
Well, the programs that's building as a gig work, as the Uber Eats or DoorDash or all of these kind of stuff, they are built to be a supplemental income. You cannot build your
Mhm.
full 100% income paying $1,700 a month for rent and. So these things, it helps. I'm not saying that it's gonna like 100 whatever extra that comes in, but it's not gonna sustain life.
Right.
And there's not even like after January, we don't know. We literally we have no idea after these benefits are gone. That I my mind is literally cannot compute how we're gonna survive. How when it comes, I anticipate my car payment when it comes January. I'm gonna call them and say, I'm sorry, I'm out this month until I see what's going on. But we have no options. We don't have
Hmm.
family to support us.
Hmm.
We don't have um, anybody to like to rely on, or like somebody if the eviction went through. We don't have anywhere to literally go other than to find either a voucher from LA City or some kind of they have a housing just for us not to sleep on the street. That's
Right.
literally
Definitely.
what I'm facing at this moment. If January 20th came the eviction with no unemployment, with nothing extra.
Definitely. And you mentioned before that you also feel pessimistic about getting a stimulus. And as someone who has really done everything, by the book, in a sense, you came here from Egypt, you took your citizenship test, you started your own business, you paid taxes, you had savings, which you ran through in the first couple months of the pandemic. You did everything right or by the book. How does, the lack of support now make you feel? And what are you feeling moving forward? Oh, are you unable to hear?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Now
Now
I
you're
can hear you.
sure. So I'm not sure how much you heard, but basically I was just
Yeah, I don't know
mentioning,
what happened. It just went through.
is it all right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was basically just mentioning, you did everything by the book. Basically, you came here as an immigrant, you took the citizenship test, you started your own business, you paid taxes, you had savings, which you ran through because your business bottomed out. You know, that given, how do you feel about being in the position you are in, having a kind of lack of support, and what do you feel moving forward?
Uh, I don't see. This is the thing. When you say United States of America, eh, we had the
Could you
idea.
maybe move your phone a little bit closer so I can hear better?
Yeah, can you hear me like that?
Slightly better, but
Better?
you can continue.
Better? Yeah.
Whatever you think will be the loudest.
Yeah, I'm trying. Sorry. Um, yeah. So when I moved here, it's we the idea is that you can live your dream build in the United States. And that's what happened. We build a company, we build inventory for our event business. But when the time comes that Congress should act to support, the the people they that's working, because we are the infrastructure. We hire people. We hire anywhere between 15 to 20 person a month for our events. And
Right.
now gone. I can't hire anybody because I
Right.
cannot even
Andrew,
feed myself.
I'm sorry, I really can't hear you very well. I'm sorry to cut you off. Can you check the connection on your
No worries.
headphones? Can you check the connection on your
Let
headphones?
me let. Okay.
It's difficult to hear.
Is that better?
Oh, so much better.
Can you hear
Much
me?
better. I can
Yeah,
hear you
sorry.
very well.
I just yeah, I just
No worries.
shut off the
So,
headphones.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
So, like,
you just say, so you can continue. Yeah.
yeah, it's this is the thing. I came here as an immigrant. I built my business. I'm doing my American dream. But when the time comes that I I I, I can't. I'm not looking for a handout. I want to go back to work. I want to build my business. And yes, my businesses are destroyed. We want to build it again. I built it once. I'm gonna build it again.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just looking for just keep us so we don't go down to an extent. I don't know. Yeah, hopelessness. How can I get out of this?
Right.
If I'm gonna end up living in my car, it's just how am I? It's just your mind become foggy. So Congress just have to act. They have to put all the differences aside. I don't care. It's just you have to push for something to keep people afloat in the next at least 3 to 4 months until
Right.
we will be able to get the vaccine and get people out in the world to open up businesses.
Right. Thank you for your thoughts on that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Andrew, I don't have any more questions for you now, but is there anything
Thank
else
you.
you want to share about your experience? I also posted your GoFundMe on my HAPS page, so if anyone wants to donate, they can. Are there any
Thank you.
parting thoughts that you would like to share, Andrew?
The part is, this is one thing that it's like I think a lot of people are passing through, even through the holiday. You get for granted that you will be able to buy a Christmas tree this year. It's like I can't. Like I'm reaching a point. Like even the holidays. I'm focusing on survival mood that uh, I cannot even buy a Christmas because I have to pay whatever with this $50,
Right.
a bill that I'm already on overdue. So
Right.
the normal thing that you take for granted all these past years, it just pops up suddenly that it is not for granted. I cannot do it. I just simply cannot do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm
That's it.
sorry to hear about that because that is just really tough. And I hope that you will be able to make it work. And I'm wishing you the very best. So thank you so much for coming on, Andrew.
Thank you so much for reaching out, and thank you for raising voices that I'm one person from a million that need help, at this moment. So thank you, Caroline, so much.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye, Andrew.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. So that was great having Andrew on. Now I will introduce another final guest who, as disclosure, is also my friend and as well as an excellent reporter. Let's get her on now. Ooh. All right. I'm so bad at these technical things. All right, Sarah. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. And it was great to hear from both Andrews.
Yeah, double Andrew. So would you mind introducing yourself? Tell me a little bit about your work and where you work.
Yeah, so I am Sarah. I'm a reporter for City Lab, which is part of Bloomberg News. I've covered a lot of things during my time there, including the gig economy, policing, housing, and I'm excited to talk today, about labor and the gig economy some more.
Great. I also got a comment here that someone tried visiting the HAPS TV profile but couldn't see the site without signing up. You should be able to see the site without signing up. So I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to just let you know that you should be able to do that. if you go to about.haps.tv, that might help. All right. So Sarah, thank you so much for introducing yourself. And I'm excited, to talk about gig work as something that sort of intersects with underemployment and unemployment right now. I mean, just anecdotally, so many people who I've talked to in my reporting on unemployment say that when they can't make ends meet, they turn to gig work. A lot of times they turn to DoorDash, Uber, these kinds of jobs. So I wanted to ask you, first off, what does it mean to be a gig worker or to take a gig job?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so gig work has existed, before these platform apps like DoorDash, Postmates, and Uber and Lyft. A lot of the gig work we see right now are, app-based jobs like delivery work or rideshare driving. It also spans sort of the gamut for other contract labor that doesn't come with the traditional employment benefits that we think about. So freelance work, freelance writing is gig work. Acting for shows is sometimes gig work if you're not in a union. Domestic work is gig work if you don't have one employer that you show up to every day. Some of the parts of gig work that are specific are that it's flexible work. Mm-hmm. So again, you don't have to show up to a 9 to 5. You don't have a traditional boss, but you are sort of working on your own time with your own hours.
And why do you think so many people who are unemployed or underemployed right now are taking these kinds of jobs and doing this work?
I mean, I think what we've seen, especially during coronavirus, is a lot of traditional employment opportunities are drying up. Right. It's really, it could be dangerous for some folks to be working in a restaurant. A lot of retail jobs have been lost. A lot of layoffs have happened. And so, people, as you mentioned, are trying to make ends meet and unemployment is running out. Being able to hop on this app and try to make a few extra dollars or, enough to afford food and rent each month. It's pretty easy to get on these platforms. There's a low barrier to entry, and there are very few qualifications that you need to get a job like this. But of course, the jobs, are hard and they're essential. Right. And so it's interesting that a lot of the folks that have been, laid off or unable to work jobs that they did before the pandemic are now doing some of the most essential jobs out there right now.
Definitely. And I wanted to ask what these sort of jobs typically do provide for people and what do they not provide for people? Because when we talk about
absolutely, I mean,
like a salaried job, you'd hope to get something like healthcare, but I know that is totally not the case for these jobs.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, the big difference, the positive difference is that it provides us flexibility. But I think, some of what we're noticing today and in previous years is that without a contract, without a salary, you're not given healthcare, which is so important right now and always. You're not given paid sick days. It's very hard if you contract a case of the coronavirus or if you have the flu. If you don't work, you don't get paid in these jobs. You don't get a guaranteed minimum wage. And that's something that a lot of Uber, Lyft, and delivery drivers have been contending with, as fewer people are asking for rideshare. If you don't have a delivery that hour or a ride that hour, you might not get paid anything, as opposed to salaried work where you're guaranteed, in California, a minimum wage of $15 an hour. And you also, it's much harder to get unemployment benefits, as Andrew mentioned. It's much harder to get workers' comp. All of these protections that are built into our labor system in the United States, shaky as they are in some arenas, don't really exist for gig workers writ large.
Right. Thank you. That was a very comprehensive answer. I appreciate it. So I wanted to also zoom out a little bit and ask, what is the impact of the prevalence of these kinds of jobs in the labor market?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting to see, again, especially we're talking during the coronavirus when people are getting so many more deliveries sent to them. They're not, relying on going to restaurants as much as before. Waiters might be transitioning from, tipped, salaried work in restaurants to more precarious forms of gig labor, delivering food to people. Instead of going to the grocery store, people might be ordering it online. So it's like transferring some of these jobs into, a new mediated platform space, and just sort of changing the nature of work. And I mean, I think we'll talk about it in a second, but there's been a lot of legislation around how to govern these new types of work. And I think those will have a lot of impacts on the economy, both nationwide and state to state.
Absolutely. So let's talk about it. First of all, we're here in California. What is Prop 22 and what happened there? Well, it didn't pass, or it did pass. Sorry. It did pass.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about sort of the pros and cons of gig work for workers. Obviously, companies like Uber, Lyft, Postmates, DoorDash have a big stake in having the people that work on the platform be gig workers and not employees. It saves them a lot of money, and their whole sort of business model is based on not paying salaries, is based on sort of connecting drivers with jobs. So in California, sort of the site of a lot of these companies, legislators tried to make it much harder for companies to classify their workers as employees. I mean, as gig workers, and made it so they would have to have these benefits we were talking about, like minimum wage, health insurance, unemployment benefits. So AB 5 was the name of that bill that passed. And ever since then, there's been sort of this protracted battle to get Uber and Lyft and Postmates and DoorDash and other delivery companies to adhere to it or not. And so Prop 22, which you mentioned, was a ballot measure presented to California voters, sort of to talk about whether AB 5 would be enforced or whether delivery and ride hail would be exempt from it.
Right.
Part of that passing, Uber and Lyft and other delivery drivers did get a few more benefits. There's some wage increases, there's some more healthcare packages, but it definitely does not bring them to the level of employee that AB 5 would have. And labor experts, labor advocates are really worried that this kind of model might pass to other states.
Right. Definitely. I was going to ask you about that, but I wanted to address a comment from the chat, which is someone saying, what I hear most positive from gig workers is that they have flexible hours. Now, the idea of having flexible hours was something that Prop 22, like the advertising surrounding it, really hammered home, saying, oh, you want Prop 22 to pass because you want gig workers to have flexible hours. Is it true that Prop 22 allows workers to have flexible hours, or is that sort of a clever spin?
Yeah, I mean, part of the craziest thing about this ballot measure was just how much money and how much advertising these companies did to, advocate for their cause. They spent $200 million on these sorts of ads, and they were really pushing this narrative that, flexibility needs to be preserved. If Prop 22 doesn't pass, they'll lose it. I want to say that, as you said, like, it's the companies that are providing this flexibility. So, there's nothing in AB 5 that makes it so you can't work flexible hours as a gig worker. It's only that companies wouldn't want to, or they say they wouldn't want to spend the money to pay people at minimum wage all day, every day, even if they're working those hours already. So yeah, I mean, perhaps flexibility wouldn't have been preserved, but that would have been the choice of the companies, not the implication of the bill itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for addressing that. That was something I was thinking a lot about and hearing from people about. And we have another comment, saying that it wasn't only ads, it was political messaging within the apps. This person found it hard to believe that that was legal. I saw the same thing. That was pretty crazy. You had to click like, I agree or something, or something confirming, going past a page that says, oh yes, on Prop 22 when you want to use, you know, Uber or Lyft.
And drivers themselves were getting those ads in the app. And I think like it was really, you know, hard to tell what drivers, workers themselves actually felt about gig work versus being an employee, especially when they're being barraged with these messages every day before they pick up riders, like support Prop 22.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think it sets a really crazy precedent.
Definitely. And did you have a sense of that from your reporting, you know, from talking to drivers, whether they wanted it to pass or not?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have done good work on this. And I think like no group is a monolith. I think that for a lot of drivers who do work full time, and there are many of them that work, 40 to 80 hours a week, doing this work, especially during the pandemic, there would be great benefits to being able to take sick days, to have unemployment benefits, especially as jobs dried up, to have a minimum wage and to be paid for the time you're sitting in your car waiting for a delivery to come through. I think for some folks who, are doing this as a side hustle, and who are doing it to make ends meet, they're sort of afraid that the companies will take away their flexibility outside of the gig work model. So I think it was sort of a divided question. But at the same time, I think even if people, whatever you think of the content of Prop 22, something to emphasize is this, huge spending that happened on the part of these companies, and the fact that it's going to be really hard to change Prop 22 in California by the legislator or by voters in the future. So I just think that's another element. So like, no matter what anyone thinks, like this was sort of a corporate backed bill.
Right. And it was the most expensive one ever, right?
Yeah, I think in California. And California has a lot of high spending on these bills.
Totally. Yeah. It's honestly hard to believe. It's all pretty shocking. We have a really good question here about how do gig jobs help or affect single parents? Personally, this person says, with a child doing virtual schooling, having to be home for his school and no help, gigs like Uber are not an option.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a good point. I think that, right, I mean, again, when you talk about flexibility, it's flexibility for who? For someone who's able to like go out and do these sorts of jobs. And again, there's no flexibility if you have to stay home with your kid. If you're not driving, then you're not getting unemployment, you're not getting paid, you're not getting sick leave in the middle of a pandemic. So I think that's a really good point. I mean, I also think, as I mentioned before, there are other kinds of gig work that aren't driving for Uber, that aren't doing delivery. We don't talk about them as much. And, domestic work, care work, nannying, taking care of children, a lot of those kinds of jobs aren't compensated fairly either. And being a parent or having to be inside the home and not being able to work is work. And I think it goes back to, your conversation with Andrew, the first Andrew, about what aid is needed to get people through these times if they're not able to work outside the home or in the home, but they are, doing labor. That's really important.
Absolutely. Kind of wrapping up here. So if anyone has any questions, please submit them in the chat. Really appreciate, we've had some really excellent questions. So thanks so much for those. Sarah, I wanted to return, you already did talk about it a little bit, but the trajectory of other things like Prop 22. Is it just going to be everywhere? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was what, labor experts or labor advocates like Gig Workers Rising and other sort of anti-Prop 22 groups were really raising during this fight, is that, whatever happens in California, it will set precedent, again, because California is such a huge market for gig work, and is like the home base of these companies. So I think that the playbook seems to have worked for these companies in California, and it and it already seems like they're going to try to follow a similar path in other states. But what I will say is there's also, precedent for AB5, not only in California, but in other states. And so other states could, take broader action to support gig workers as well. So I think it's going to be, a battle on both sides to change the gig worker model, preserve the gig worker model. And, the Biden administration, I don't do a ton of, reporting on what Biden will mean for gig workers, but I think it'll be interesting to see if he will take some sort of federal action to change employment status or preserve employment status. So that'll be something to watch.
Definitely. I think I'm remembering this correctly, that Kamala Harris had a comment about saying she thought Prop 22 was really bad. I think she spoke out about it. I'd be curious.
That's interesting because her sister is married to Uber's legal head.
Okay, so I might have completely.
No, I mean, that doesn't, it doesn't have to affect her political view on this ballot measure.
Right? Yeah. So, those are all of my questions pretty much, Sarah. Do you have any other thoughts on the intersection between gig work and unemployment or underemployment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you covered it greatly. I mean, I think again, the coronavirus just exposes a lot of holes in the safety net, not only for gig workers, also for salaried employees.
Right.
And it really emphasizes the need for more types of jobs, more employment opportunities, and also, federal aid. All of those things could help people get through what is a really, really hard time and is not as unprecedented as we think it is. A lot of people were struggling before the pandemic.
That's a really good point. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. Excellent to talk with you as always. Everyone, if you want to follow Sarah on Twitter, Sarah, what's your Twitter?
It's Sarah Scholder, SARAH SHOLDER. And you can also follow Gig Workers Rising, City Lab, all these other groups that have informed my thinking.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sarah. I will talk to you later. Bye now.
Bye. I don't know how to leave.
Get off. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today and for bearing with me with some technical difficulties. I promise I will learn better how to figure those out. I also wanted to say, for people who want to share their stories, they have ideas about a broadcast, feel free to send me a DM on Twitter. It's Caroline, CAROLINE _Hart, HART. Send me a DM. You can send me an email, caroline.allison.hart@gmail.com. And, follow me on Haps so you can get notifications about when my next broadcast is. And I appreciate everyone's feedback as always. So thank you so much and stay safe.